Doom Eternal is easily one of the best games that ended up released in the last generation. It's known for many things like its gameplay, its enemy variety, but one of the most notable part of the game is its soundtrack. The soundtrack made by Mick Gordon. Now, Mick Gordon is one of the most well-respected composers in the video game industry. Basically, if his name is not something, it's guaranteed to have an amazing soundtrack, and the game has a very high probability to be good. He has an absolutely perfect record until the Doom Eternal OST come out. When the OST released, it got a lot of criticism, and a lot of people were saying that it wasn't really that good. It was like rushed and badly composed, and they were very curious. They were wondering what happened. Why did this release come out? Because this is very off-brand of Mick Gordon to release something like this, so something had to go wrong. And then out of nowhere, Marty Shredder of Bethesda ended up releasing an open letter on Reddit, which basically blames the whole OST being bad and not really that good on Mick Gordon. This just made him sound like an absolutely terrible guy, a horrible person to work with, and makes him turn out to be like very lazy. Absolutely destroys his reputation. For the past 2 years, he has been used, for example, of talented people who are just lazy or talented people who are just not nice. And it's been like this until a couple days ago, Mick Gordon ended up releasing a behemoth of a response to it. And when I mean this is big, I mean it has a table of content level of big. I have never seen a clapback or article this huge before. It is absolutely insane. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing because that means we're going to be here for years and you probably have something important to do. So I'm just going to give you the cliff notes and some very important things on it. So first, let's talk about the Reddit post itself. So when the OST first came out and it was getting a lot of criticism, Marty ended up going to Mick and saying that they should do something about it and make a response. Him and Mick, they were both coming up with plans saying what they could do, and they ended up stopping the idea that they should both make a joint statement about the situation. So he basically told Mick Gordon to not say anything and stay silent. Well, instead of making the joint statement, Marty ended up going on Reddit and making the quote-unquote open letter, completely throwing him under the bus for the situation. And it still gets even worse than that. And then he goes even deeper, saying that even making the OST was absolutely terrible. Like, they ended up saying that Mick Gordon was gonna make the OST before it was even announced, and before they even contracted his name on it. It even put up pre-orders. They basically made people pre-order a product that didn't even exist yet. So he basically had to rush and like speed run the work so he can release the OST in time with the release of the game. And I know what you must be thinking. Oh, with him rush and being treated that bad, he must have been paid well. Like, maybe Bethesda paid him well for like making him work so hard. No, you're absolutely wrong. He didn't even get paid for over a year. Imagine you're putting in 100% of your effort, you're slaving away just so you can reach their absolutely crazy deadline, and they don't even pay you for a half a year. Like, that do I even need to describe why that's not right? Like, why that's evil? It's just, and to throw salt on the wound to make it even worse, they ended up using the soundtrack and the music he made on promotional art and, commercials for the game, and marketed for the game, and marketed the soundtrack, and they didn't even pay him. So they're making all this money from marketing and people pre-ordering, but to actually pay the person who's making the music, no, that's too much work. We don't have the money for that. Even with that work, the soundtrack did come out really good. And Mick ended up winning a lot of rewards, like game awards and trophies for making the best soundtrack of the year that he can't even see. Because Marty ended up doing the beautiful, humble thing, picking up the statues on the behalf of Mick Gordon and not even giving it to him. He says that he was barely able to see them, and he's only able to see the statues and the rewards behind closed doors. So you work so hard, you slave away for this company, you're at least hoping that, well, at least if I win a reward, I'm able to see and look at it. Nope, just stay at the studio forever and you can't look at it. Why would you do that? And this is just the tip of the iceberg. It gets very, very bad on how they treated him, and it's just disgusting. This is completely unacceptable, and I don't think Mick Gordon is the only person. He ended up having a platform and enough of a name to come out and for people to listen to this, but I am 100% positive that there's more people in the game industry who is being treated this badly. I just don't know how game companies keep on getting away with treating voice actors, composers, programmers, people who make the games that we play a thing, people that without these games just wouldn't exist or wouldn't be as good, and treat them bad. The soundtrack that Mick Gordon make is integral to Doom. It's part of the identity of Doom. When you think about it, you think about the soundtrack that he made. Like, for example, the DLC of Doom Eternal, The Ancient Gods, soundtrack isn't made by Mick Gordon. And yes, those soundtracks are still good, but they just don't hit the same as the original soundtrack of the Doom Eternal base game. His work is part of the identity of Doom, so absolutely disrespecting him and not treating him right is just crazy to me. And this is just something that just has to be stopped. I don't know what we can do to stop this, but I think just talking about it is a good start. So I think it's great that he comes out with this response and talks about how he was mistreated. Now, Bethesda did make a response, but I'm just going to be honest, it's not good. They ended up doing that thing saying that we have evidence to prove you wrong, but don't show it, which I absolutely hate when people do this. If you have the evidence to prove someone wrong, why not show it? Why not just come out and say, hey, this is why you're wrong and here's the proof? But instead you just hide behind the corner and do this, oh, you better stop because we have something to prove you wrong. Here it comes, which is going to be kind of hard for people to believe, especially another thing that Mick Gordon ended up revealing, that he was given silence money from Bethesda, that Bethesda gave him $100,000 to be like, hey, don't say anything, take the complete blame, take this bail money, which is absolutely just pathetic money. I mean, he completely destroyed this man's reputation, and if he did say anything, it would have been harder for him to get more jobs, and you just give him a measly $100,000. That's kind of bad. So for him to say stuff like that, and then you saying that you have receipts, but instead of revealing it, you just leave with your tiny threat. Kind of hard for people to believe. But hey, this is just something that I wanted to talk about. My name is Lua. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, do the YouTube thing. I was on Twitter, Lua to the stars. Don't forget to follow it. You have a good day or night. See ya.